thank you for coming out on this beautiful Monday evening, Thursday evening, sorry. I don't know why I thought it was Monday. It's before the weather turns and I think we actually start having some fall here in Texas. This is Novel Night at Malvern Books, and we feature novelists, and we're very lucky to have three very talented writers whose books are over there on display. And I'm sure if you buy one, they will sign it for you if you ask them. That's the way it usually works. The good news is, and another piece of exciting news is that on Novel Night, all fiction in the store is 20% off. And so not only are the featured readers for tonight 20% off, but our 2018 and 2019 Nobel laureates are on sale for 20% off. And Olga Turgashuk and Peter Handke are in the house, are represented here in the store. And so, along with a lot of other people. So, without further ado, we will start with first Mark Falkin. Mark is the author of the novels The Late Bloomer, Contract City, and Days of Grace. He lives with his wife and daughter in Austin, where he is a literary agent and recovering music attorney, having represented platinum sellers and Grammy winners alike. Mark?
All right, thanks guys. Thanks for coming out. I'm going to be the long form, I think, of this program tonight, so I'm going to probably read for a good 12-15 minutes. This is an Austin set novel. It's called The Late Bloomer. It takes place in this neighborhood, and it's kind of a Halloween apocalyptic horror novel that is as bad as Austin as you can get. I try not to tick through the Chamber of Commerce sites, but I'm a little bit guilty of it. It's a love letter to the city, but it's told through a scary prism. So I'm going to read a part that I've never read before live. Usually read from the beginning. This came out last year, and I was always reading from the beginning because I didn't want to give away spoilers and do all that. But now I've decided, hey, you know what? I'm just going to read a little bit later in the book. So this is, but it's still early in the book. It'll give you a good sense of what the vibe is and what the tone of the book is. So the entire novel is a transcript of an audio recording. Our young protagonist, his name's Kevin Marks. He's 17. He does not go to McCallum High School. He is not in the McCallum High School band. That wouldn't be fiction. So he, this is 2 days before Halloween, and he experiences something catastrophic and apocalyptic at Mount Bonnell. He's making his way home, and so what I'm reading here is his transcription of what he's been going through during this entire process. And this is really early on. Things are very WTF. And so he's back at home, and instead of going to check out something that has just happened close by that he may want to go see, pertinent to the cataclysm that's happening, he feels it's really important that he should go across the street to his neighbor's house, and we'll see why. All right, so, and I'm just jumping into the middle of the scene, so here we go. She and Mom did neighborly duties for each other, like collecting mail and newspapers during vacations. They swapped baked goods around Christmas, and she always seemed to know what was going on with me and Johnny. Waving as she made her way to her car, yelling across the street in a real voice, not a fake sing-song, asking how we were, how's such and such going. Yesterday she was carrying groceries in. The hatchback of her aging wagon open, an old Subaru replete with political stickers, strident, baffling, some in Spanish. and she yelled across the street at me that she was going to be watching the Macy's parade. We all will. Todos nosotros. I had to get close to turn her over. So I blocked it all out. Her voice, her friendly waving, who I thought she was, and summoned strength and focus like I did in band. I marched over to her and, steeling myself, moved her hair back and turned her over in one fluid motion. Her jaw unhinged. I was here rather than watching the plane burn to confirm it. Her mouth brimmed thick with white webbing-like material I'd seen on the trash man. The texture mucoid yet dry, like no substance I'd seen. It had a translucence, a sheen to it. Her eyes open, her mouth stuffed with this cottony, webby, yet shiny. I stand bolt upright, aghast, my hand to my mouth like I didn't want it to leap into me, though I knew it didn't leap, move from person to person like a virus, bacteria, a gas. It came from inside, something already planted. An interloper, a freeloader. It's there from the inception, at the conception, always been there. It's there as mitosis splits us, as cells amass in the womb, latent for eons. But now it's come out at the beckoning of the dawn sounds. Starshine white, crystalline shards like some malignantly alive cotton candy issuing from the throat. I can say that with some assurance now, but even then, at that moment, I sensed it came from, if not far, far away, a long time ago. Though at the time I didn't stand there to ponder it, doing that at night when I can't sleep, listening for them. Don't do that. Don't you touch her, a voice bellowed from the cracked door. Half of Mr. Fleming's face, a frantic eye. He jerked his hand at me once, like shooing a fly. You get away! His voice, barrel. Mr. Fleming, do you know what's going on? My voice ricocheted and didn't sound like mine with that hysterical break in it. I took a step toward him. He closed the door more, leaving only inches through which to yell. You stay back, I've got a gun here. He tipped the barrel he gripped with his fist into view. Loaded. I'm not... I remember I didn't know what to say. I felt accused and didn't understand. I backed up a step and put my hands up in a defensive posture. You're not what, son? Responsible? Jesus, holy Christ. I'll never forget that because it confused me then as it confuses me now. Though now, I must admit, I do see maybe what he meant. Honestly, I just got home to pick up Johnny. I don't know what's happening. His eyes scanned down to his wife. He stopped blinking and stared as renewed shock poured over him. His face was ashen and slicked with sweat. I waited for him to cry out. He looked back up at me. I took today off. Woke up later than usual. Becky gone off to work. Then the exploding text. Then the TV. Then I got my gun. Then I looked out the window. He nodded down like at a struck animal on the highway. Saw her. I haven't seen TV yet. The radio's not been specific. Mr. Fleming looked above my head at the smoke from the plane, rubbed his nose with his hand. He still wouldn't open the door. Yeah, I'd say that's the gist of it. Non-specific. Lacking in specificity, he chuckled. Amidst the chaos of downed plane nearby and dead woman on the walkway, that Mr. Fleming said this calmed me a smidge, because that's something he would say. Martin didn't much like Mr. Fleming, so I did by default. I'm sure Mr. Fleming never knew or cared. Martin didn't think twice about announcing this dislike to us. Often he stood at the window, curtain parted with one hand, coffee in the other, watching his neighbor doing something as benign as mowing the grass, saying, "What's that asshole up to now?" Martin didn't like him for the same stupid reasons people forever haven't liked each other. He assumed the other guy thought he was special and resented him for it. What made Martin think Mr. Fleming think he was so special? What made him think he was so goddamn smart? Was that Professor Fleming taught at UT, sociology, long tenured, PhD. He tended his raised vegetable gardens with a big floppy hat Martin thought was just precious. A real homophobe, straight from Central Casting. I mean, Mr. Fleming had been married for decades, had kids on both coasts. Sometimes the news interviewed Mr. Fleming as an expert on all things anime, social media, texting while driving, little girls dressed like hookers, the starvation death cult they discovered out near Marfa last year, calling themselves breatharians. So when Mr. Fleming said lacking in specificity, for a moment we were talking like neighbors again. He the professor, me the befuddled kid. What is this? I demanded. TV's not happening anymore. It's happening that fast. What is? I'd tell you if I knew, but don't touch her. Leave her alone, okay? I think the best thing you can do right now is go home and shut yourself in. How long has she been like that? Did you call 911? What were they saying on TV? I was whining now, desperate to know anything. He looked down at his wife and frowned, a commonplace frown you'd issue if your raked pile of leaves had been scattered by wind. I didn't understand that then. Now I do. He frowned at his wife's corpse because the sadness had become so absolute that his spirit was unable to do anything else. Just all camera phone stuff. I didn't see any on-camera live footage. That's how fast. Footage of what? He paused. The constant faraway car and home alarms. Listen, Kevin, I'm sorry, but I need to close the door. He coughed. The look on the sliver of his face said pain and panic. He swallowed hard and looked back down at Mrs. Fleming. His chin quivered. His hand shook with an elderly palsy as he raised it to clutch his throat. Please, if whatever this is happens as fast as you say, and I'm nearly crying now. I wanted to blurt out my guesses in staccato to him. Oh, still want to name this, put it in an airtight bottle, label it, put it on a shelf of logic. It is happening fast. The sound of a skidding car, a dull crunch thud streets away. Something black and awful, nothing we've ever been prepared for or would ever have been able to prepare for. We couldn't have known that this was a possibility. He coughed into his fist. Something's happened. Something's taken a hold now. It's just death. I think it's extinction time, Kevin. I really do. But hell if I know what's causing it. He looked guiltily away. Something clouded his mind. It's over. It's just over. This, coming from a professor of sociology, it sounds official, confirmed. And in my heart, I knew he's right. I know he's right. But what about me? Am I going to die today? I tried but failed to not glance down at Mrs. Fleming's stuffed maw, her purpling skin. Swallowing hard, I say, so it's happening that fast. I may not be able to see anything about it because TV's out. I looked at him, beseeching. I need to know. What did you see? He opened the door an inch more. Only an hour or so. Total chaos on screen at the newsrooms. Because they're not just reporting it, they're affected too. I remember the wind dying down and hearing the roar and crackle of the plane wreck. The first images were of whales on beaches, lined up like rows of batteries, bleeding from the ears. Beaches in Mexico, Nicaragua, England, South Africa, India, Australia, Japan, Massachusetts, down here in Matagorda Bay. CNN's running raw footage, hardly any commentary. One woman, not in makeup, a runner, an intern, was trying to report, but she didn't stay on camera long. Shaking shots of people running nowhere, staggering and grabbing their throats. Then scenes and scenes of people jumping from buildings and ledges and bridges. You don't even know what cities. There's no scrolling chyrons. They're not jumping from flames like on 9/11. They're just jumping. People blowing their heads off with guns. He looks down at the shotgun and back at me. Anchor persons only said, "We're bringing you this raw footage," and "We're waiting for a message from the president." Things like that. A static shot of the White House press room waiting for him. Minutes later, the signal just dropped out, and then, "Professor Fleming, what do we do?" "Go back to your house." "Where's the military, the safe places, the contingency plans?" Panicked breathing. "The military is made up of people. It's flesh. All that might means nothing in the face of this." "This? Go back to your house." "But after that, what am I supposed to do?" He closed his eyes and said calmly, "Go back to your house." "You're a professor of, you know people. What is this? I have to know. A virus, a military thing gone wrong. The world choking in worldwide mass suicides at dawn, Kevin? I cannot conceive of a virus, bacterium, a gas." He cackled with fright and wild hilarity. "It can't even be star monsters or creatures wandering in from those other dimensions. Those maybe we could fight." I didn't want to say it, but I did. End times, biblical, Mayans, whatever. A pause. This white stuff? As I waited for his answer, I viewed in my mind's eye the wave rolling up the river. Heard the massive dawn sounds before that. The smiling faces under wind-whipped hair. The dark, smiling teeth of my summer dreams. He put a fist to his mouth and stifled another cough, his cheeks billowing out. "Huh, pick a book, pick a chart, pick a pundit, pick a preacher, a petri dish. But does it really matter? It's over." I stood there looking at him and felt his resignation. He sighed and didn't look at me anymore. He shook his head as if it was all just a damn shame. Glanced at his dead wife, then looked into the loom of his house like someone else was there. I could just hear him mumble into the room, "I don't know, I don't know. All ruined now, all done." He fell to a knee with a heavy thud, coughed haggardly, and closed the door. I heard the deadbolt snap into place. I expected to hear the shotgun, but he was still there, behind the door, and I heard him whisper, "It needs you to need it."